In the previous section of the course, we spent a lot of time talking about atomic structure and electrons and orbitals and so on. And now we're in a position to figure out how do we take atoms and combine them together, and what the different ways we combine them together. We call that bonding, to make different kinds of materials which can be used to solve engineering problems. So we're actually going to, at the end of this section, get to the answer in this question, why do we make everything out of glass? And by the time we get to the end of this section, it'll be blindingly obvious, if it isn't obvious already. So, so for instance, if you want to build a very large bridge, right, you need material properties which glass doesn't have. And that's all kind of obvious, isn't it? And so you need a material which is both strong and ductile. What that means is it's not brittle. If it doesn't break if it moves or expands or contracts a little bit. You can't build a Golden Gate Bridge out of glass, obviously. And you want to construct buildings, you need a really wide array of materials from extremely strong and rigid to strong and flexible. Here's some PVC piping, here's some concrete and so on and so forth. These are very different kind of physical properties. Here's iron, right? And of course, we want to build not just buildings and large things, we want to build electronic devices, for instance. And so we need to be able to have fine control over electrical properties, electronic properties. How does electricity flow? So that's really important. We need materials which will tolerate very high temperatures without degrading, undergoing chemical reactions. If you want to build transportation machines, automobiles and so on, we need weight-saving materials, can stand very high temperatures, and of course we need fuels, right? We're going to talk about fuels later in the course as well. And most electronic devices interact with us via the display, right? A phone or a computer or something. And so that's going to be something to do with light and motion and so on. We need light properties and all these things that glass obviously can't tell us. So we're going to find that these different properties can be arrived at by combining different atoms together, atoms and different elements together in different ways, or rather taking advantage of the different ways that atoms and different elements combine themselves to make different kinds of bonding, different kinds of orbitals, and different kinds of, which results in different overall physical properties. And that's what we're going to learn about in this section of the notes. But the very first question we're going to ask is a very simple one, is if you have two atoms, why do they form a bond anyway? Right? That's the most fundamental thing. Once we understand that, then we can understand different kinds of bonding. So it's the very first question we're going to ask is, why do atoms bother forming bonds anyway? If they didn't, we wouldn't have any of the materials that we need, that engineers need to do what engineers do.